Hey guys, welcome back to a quick tutorial on Photoshop about how I created this image I posted up on my Instagram page lately. I try to explain how I did it in the comments field on my Instagram post, but sometimes it's probably a little bit easier when you watch somebody do it and they talk you through it as well. So here we are today, but before we get into it, let's roll the intro. Hey guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. This is a quick tutorial in Photoshop and how I went about creating this cool little image. I got somebody to originally take a photo of me taking the photo using my camera, and then what I did is I cut around it using the select and mask tool. I'll put a link in the description below about how you go about doing that. This guy by the name of Bradley Jack Designs explains it really well, so I've learnt that from him. Then I took that photo and saved it as a PNG file and then dropped that into Photoshop. So let's jump into Photoshop and I'll talk you through the steps that I went about to create this image. So here we are in Photoshop. This is the final piece. As you can see, I've got paint splatters here. I've got a bit of a drop shadow going on. Also, you can obviously see there's some paint, so it's sort of brushed there as well. So I've used the paintbrush there, which I'll show you, talk you through. But if we look over to the side here, there's a lot of masking going on. There's adjustments added in here. As you can see, paint speckles and also the background. So if I just unselect all of those and take it right back, first of all, I've got my background in here. So this is my background, which I just grabbed from Uncle Google. So I used a background there and dropped that in, and then I've also got some paint speckles which I'll take you through later, so I'll show you how I went about doing that. But if I go to the image that I had of myself, so this is the image here which I click on here, and you can see this is what the final product looks like. So if I take away the masking that I've done here, delete, so disable the layer mask, and there's the full image of myself there. So that's me cut out, but I thought it looked quite dark, so I added some levels to that. So here's a level here, and how I do that is about using an adjustment. So I click on adjustments, click on the levels, and then that brings us back to this level here, and this one here is called a screen level. So what a screen level does, it makes it a lot brighter. And so you can see there, it brightens it right up. And as you can see, I've only used it at 73%. And so what I've done is that you can actually see how it's quite bright around here, around my arms here, and I didn't quite like how bright it became, so I added another level to help darken that. So I clicked on adjustments, added another level, so just by clicking on levels. And then if we can see here, it sort of darkened it up a little bit. But I've also put on here a mask by clicking down here, and that there's called a layer mask or a vector mask, and it brings us up here. And so if I disable that, you can sort of see how it looks. See, it's really come up quite dark there because it's actually showing the whole level, the multiple level there. So if I unselect it and select it, that's what it looks like. So when I select it, I didn't want it to be the whole dark part. I only wanted there to be this part here. So how I did that was by using this vector mask and enabling that, and then getting my brush tool, so clicking here over on my brush tool, and then just painting that on. So I just paint that on like that. But as you can see here, it paints the whole lot on. So what you want to do is you want to go up here and drop that back to about 20%. I always use about 20%. So if I undo what I just did there and then brush that back on, it just comes up subtly. The important part here is because we've got a black background over here, make sure that your paint here is white. If this here was white, make sure that there is black. So that there helps with that. And so then I painted over top of that. So there's that section of part of me done. So but then I actually wanted to use a paintbrush to sort of brush me back in. So if we can see here, if I enable the layer mask again, you can sort of see what I mean by that. So let's just delete that layer mask. If I just delete that, and I'll try and start again. So now it's all brought back up. So if I add this layer mask on here, and then what I want to do is I want to reverse that. So if I go Command I, see now it's come over here and it's come black. So now I want to bring myself back out. So if I want to expand my size of my brush, if I just hit the bracket button, the right bracket expands it, left bracket shortens it, and then bracket again. So again, at the brush at 20%, I've also have it so it's going to be 0% harshness, which I'll show you the difference. So there's 0%. So if I brush this back on, see how it sort of gives it that sort of blurry sort of lines around the edges. Whereas if I undo that and then I brought it back to hardness of 100%, it gives you that defined line. See how it's got that defined line? Wasn't quite going for that. So if I undo that and I just go back over here where the brush width is and bring that hardness down to there, undo that, and then bring that sort of back in as well. And because we're only at 20%, it only comes out slightly. So what you do again is as long as you've got your finger held down on your cursor, it will stay like that. Take your finger off the cursor and back down, it gets darker and darker. So every time you tap on your cursor, it gets darker and darker and darker. But what I did with the image that I had, which you would have seen on my Instagram, is I actually used a different kind of paintbrush. So if I take all that, undo all this and show you what I mean. So now I've got, so come over here, my paintbrushes, and I click on the drop down and I'll select something like this brush here and see how that goes. So oil background, so I sort of see, give it a bit of width and sort of see how that goes. So these are quite a cool different sort of feature. Again, I've got it at 100%, so let's drop it back down to 20%, how I kind of like doing it, and then just brushing it over, and you can sort of see it gives it that sort of cool sort of outline. It looks like it's been painted on. It's quite thin at the moment, but again, you just brush over, take your finger off the cursor and go back over top of it again, and just keep doing that. I think that looks pretty cool. Bit more, and I'm going to keep doing around my face so that it really pops right out and gives it that kind of look to it. So you can play around with how you want it to come out. Then what I want to do, I want to put a drop shadow on there. So I actually duplicated this layer and then I created a drop. So I duplicated that and then added a drop layer to it. See how I've got this drop layer around it? What I did there was I actually duplicated it, masked it again using this vector mask, but I've also pulled the full back to 100%. But to get the drop shadow, what you do is double click on that layer, come down to drop shadow, and then I've put it at 25%, and then these are the sizes, distance spread here. Got it at black, you can change your color to your drop shadow. And then because I've got it at fill, so if I had the fill there, if I had the fill at 100, see it brings it all up, but it makes it too dark. I don't want that, so I've actually brought the fill back down and just leaves the drop shadow there. If I pull the fill back up and drop the opacity down, it actually takes the drop shadow away. So you got to leave that opacity up. Is that how you pronounce it? Is that how you pronounce opacity? I don't know. You can tell me in the comments. And then, so that leaves me with the drop shadow. So it looks looking pretty cool at the moment. And then also wanted it to add some speckles to it. So I get the speckles on the background. So what I did there, so you can sort of see the speckles. So what I did there is I found the speckles online, pulled that in, and if I remove the mask to it, you can see how all the speckles are like that. So I made sure it's actually underneath this layer here because I want the speckles to be behind it. So then I put a mask over top of it, grabbed another brush tool at 20%, and then just started going around and just dabbing. I just want to change that brush type to that. Bring the size of it down by pushing the button, and you can sort of see start dabbing that around there as well. And that brings that in. So yeah, so I hope you learned something there. Also, what you can actually do is create some cool backgrounds to that, some really colorful backgrounds, what I've done here. I've added some backgrounds by just, for example, this background here, as you can sort of see, really cool, quite colorful background, or this one here. And the way I did that was just by using the gradient tool. What you can actually do, just add a layer by adding a layer here, go over to your gradient tool, which is found underneath the paint bucket tool. Then you select your color up here, select any color you want. Start from up here, at the top of your page, hold the shift key, and then that gives you a straight line, and then just drag that line all the way down, and that gives you a color of gradient. So all of a sudden you've got a cool background. Then what you can actually do is you can actually save that as a JPEG file, then transfer it to your phone by doing an airdrop if you've got a Mac. And then what happens with that, you can actually save it on your phone, because on your watch, because on your watch you can actually access your phone's photos, and then you use it as a screensaver like I have done on my phone. I don't know if that's a bit narcissistic, but I thought it looks quite cool as well. So you might want to do your photo, do the same sort of thing of your favorite sports star, and you can have that as your screensaver on your phone as well. So there's a quick little tip. Hope you enjoyed that one, got some benefit out of it. Please tag somebody that you would think would find this really beneficial, or I'd like to hear a comment below about how you found this as well. So I'm going to punch out a few more of these kind of tutorials. So if that's something you're into, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. It would mean the world to me if you did that. And again, thank you so much for joining me on this little tutorial, and I can't wait to see you again in the next one. See you then.